And we are starting in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Epstein Files Review, episode 18. If you are under the age of 18, as always, this is an 18 and up channel, so we're going to have to ask you to leave. And with that being said, let's jump right back down the rabbit hole. We will start with a recap, as we always do, of our last file, which was this side view of the bathroom. If anybody needs a refresher, we are in the Little St. James property, and we're going to see what we can get into today. I'm sure it's going to be some in-depth photos of the house. Here is the bathroom sink here, little wastebasket, and a toilet. We're not going to spend too much time on photos that really don't have any real weight to them. Here is a view from the outside, the pipes and the bathroom on the other side. But like I said, for transparency, we have to get through all of these files. So that would be the interesting ones and the ones that are just pictures of chairs and things. So got to get through it. Appreciate you guys going through it with me. All right, so here are some pipes. This is the room next to the bathroom. Hope everybody's doing okay today. And here are some wires. If you look here, this looks a lot like the setup that Jeffrey had in his New York home as far as all of his surveillance and monitoring equipment. This seems like this would be something similar. A lot of wires here that you would not see in a normal home. Moving right along. All right, here's a zoomed out view of that box with all of those wires and all of this equipment there. I wonder if we'll find another computer that has all of those monitors like we did in the New York home. Okay, here's a close-up of all of those boxes, Ethernet cords and whatnot. All right, here's a side view of the refrigerator and the table there. You can see the door. All right, so here we've got some PVC pipe, and you've got the lockers here, those prevalent lockers that we saw in the New York home. Some shoes there. I don't know what this is, and this is the side of the refrigerator there. Moving right along. All right, so here we have the pipes once again for the bathroom. You got the cold and the hot. So there you have it, PVC pipe. I don't know if I said QVC earlier. That's a shopping channel. All right, moving right along. There's another view of those lockers. All right, here's a long hallway here. Let me see what we can make out. All right, this looks like a washing machine or a dryer of some sort. Okay, yeah, that's definitely a washing machine or a dryer. And air conditioning unit there. All right, so this is a laundry room. Got some detergent up there. You've got an old school washing machine there. So this is a laundry room. All right, there you go. You have a laundry room. Got some ironing boards there, hangers and irons. Some totes here. Can't really see any labels on those, but those are totes. All right, so this is interesting. So I've noticed that all of the rooms have generic toiletries. And I said before that it seems like this house is being run like a resort or some sort of hotel. And as you can see, they've got very similar things that you would see at like a Holiday Inn or something like that. You've got all of these different small bottles of toiletries. You've got those brushes that we were seeing in each room, some scrub pads. The reason that this would be significant If someone's a guest voluntarily, they probably have their own toiletries. So, I mean, I'm not going to assume, but it could be indicative that if someone is making an involuntary stay, they're going to need these types of things. They're going to need the tampons that we've seen underneath the sinks. They're going to need deodorant and toothbrushes and shampoo. And it seems like this is in ready supply. All right, here's another view of those totes and some cleaning products there. All right, another view of that laundry room. Moving right along. All right, here's another view of the laundry racks with the dry cleaner bags. And we are 20% through today's episode. All right, so we've got a furnace there, and you got some towels and some totes. All right, wide view of the totes and the cleaning products and the towels. All right, another wide view of this laundry cleaning area. All right, here is another view of the same thing. We're just going to mull through these. Like I said, all the files won't be exciting, but we will get through all of them. You never know what you're going to get in these files. Just as we go in through them in order, what we get is what we get, and anything that looks like evidence, we will be pointing it out. Sometimes it's like finding a needle in a haystack, but we're here for it. Here's a wide view once again. At least if you watch all of these episodes, you'll know you looked at every single file that was in the released Epstein files. So here are some towels once again in those totes. We're not going to miss a single thing. And like I said, if you guys ever, if I don't point something out or you see it, just put it in the comment section. We can discuss it at a later date. Let me see if this tote has a label. Karina's. Okay. All right, another wide view of those totes. Okay, so this looks like staff. They've redacted the phone numbers, but they didn't redact the names, oddly enough. But apparently this looks like all of the people that worked on the property. You've got landscapers and electricians. It's got all their names there, which is really interesting because if they were to ever call anyone to the stand to attest to whether they saw anything abnormal, you would think they would start with the people that were always around the island, the Little St. James Island. And clearly, if these people worked there, they would be there often enough to be able to acknowledge whether there was any foul play going on the island. But I thought it was very interesting. I think it's very interesting that they didn't redact or protect the identity of any of these people that worked on the property. Very interesting. So apparently, you have to be a congressman or something to get your name redacted. All right, so here are those stairs again and that door underneath the main terrace there. We are 30% through today's episode. All right, so here's another side door. This is the one we were just looking at in front of the stairs there. Let's see what's going on over here. I see some mops and stuff outside of this door. Okay, and there's mops inside the door. Or is this the outside? I believe this is the outside of the door. This is just a closer look at what we were just looking at. We'll see if they give us a shot of the inside of that. Oh, there we go. All right, so this is just more wiring and whatnot. All right, so here's the view of the terrace. You can see some of those rooms, those cabana rooms or villa rooms that we've been seeing. All right, here is a view of the water from the terrace. Looked like a peaceful setting despite what was happening there. You got a little island within an island. This is an island in itself as well. Lots of little islands. All right. So this is another view from the terrace facing in a different direction. Looks like this is facing, I want to say to the west, but I don't have a compass, so can't be too sure which direction, but it's a different direction than the last file we just saw. All right. And you can kind of see all these little villas that are on the property from this shot here. Looks like there might be something over there as well. All right, so here's the view facing the rooms from that terrace. This is the infamous Little St. James property. This is as close as you can get with safety. All right, so here is, you can kind of see in one of those rooms there. I don't know if this is one of those white rose lamps there. All right, view looking to the left. And we are 40% through today's episode. All right, so this is an upper view. And you can see you got the E. I'm assuming that's for Epstein. This looks like some seashells there. And you can see the water looking out into the distance there. All right, here's another angle facing to the left. You got the flag there, the rooms in the background, those other villas down there. All right, so this is a closer view to the side. Get a better look at this side house here. All right, so this is a view from the stairs looking up. I'm assuming we were here before looking down. We see a strange looking artifact there. That's the first one we've seen. I knew we wouldn't go long without seeing some of these. I can't really make out what that is. We don't want it to get too pixelated. Looks like, I don't know, the hand gesture there. Some sort of ancient artifact looking thing. If anybody knows exactly what that is, feel free to put that in the comments section. And like I said, since a lot of this stuff looks generic, if you notice anything that could be considered abnormal, be sure to point it out and put it in the comment section so we can comment on it later. So we get another look at this little statue thing here. Looks like it's a better angle. I don't know exactly what you would call this statue, but yeah, if somebody wants to Google that, something Aztec maybe, perhaps, I'm not sure. But yeah, if you know what that is, please put it in the comments section. We're going to move right along. All right, so here's another view of those little villas. You got a little bench here. See the doors open there. All right, so this is an upper angle of what appears to be the same room there. All right, this looks like some sort of office. This looks different than the other rooms that kind of had a generic layout to it. You got a little statue there, different kind of lamps, a computer. So this room might have some more of Epstein's items, or this might be his main house on this island. You can see the glasses there, so I'm assuming this is a space that Jeffrey Epstein occupied. Like I said, we're not going to assume, but it's got a lot of the prerequisites of an Epstein room. You got a magnifying lens here for some strange reason. All right, so this is a wider angle of the same angle of that desk there. Got something going on here in the background. Can't really make out what that is. And we are 50% through today's episode. All right, so you've got a painting. So far we've got a sculpture or statue and a painting, which are based on the New York house, things that Jeffrey Epstein was really into. So it looks like a hand holding another hand, looks like a masculine hand holding a feminine hand there. And this looks like some sort of dresser. Got a little table over here. All right, we got the blue ceilings. You remember the blue room in the New York house. So this is more of his touch. Got a hallway there. Another closet thing there. All right, we got a lamp here with the world on it. And you've got those flashlights and the tissue boxes. This seems to be a common theme on these nightstands in the Epstein properties. I don't know if he was just preparing for a power outage or what, but there's always a flashlight. So there's a bottle of Voss, his usual water, and this is a side angle from the desk. You see the bed in the background there. All right, here's a wide view of the bed. Okay, another view here. You got the blue ottoman. Got the door right there. You've got that tissue box, the lamp, the Voss water on the nightstand there. So nothing too out of the ordinary, but I would feel confident in saying that this is a space that Epstein occupied. Here's a table with the ottoman. You've got that hand picture in the side there. All right, here's a view from the other side of the room. That's a strange place to put a desk because it appears there's a drawer or a door right behind it, and this nightstand is right in front of the door. So I don't know about if this is the right setup you would want, but that's where they put everything. So, all right, so here's another dresser with the same world light and more Voss water. You got your flashlight there. All right, side angle from the bed. So you've got glasses, you got a face mask, sleeping mask there, and some retainers. So I don't know if Epstein had braces, but there's retainers on the nightstand. There are lots of retainers. I think it was 3 sets. All right, we are 60% through today's episode. There's that painting again. This from the side of the bed. You can see the desk there. All right, you got the door, and here's that painting again. All right, same view. Now that painting's got like a gloss on it from the reflection. Oh, there we go. So this is a closer look, a more clear picture of that wall painting there. It looks like a man's hand and a female's hand. We can't necessarily determine the age of that hand, but it's definitely a male hand and a female hand. Here's this dresser there, or closet, whatever you want to call it. All right, moving right along. So they got a close-up of this picture here. We've already described that, so moving right along. All right, so this is a picture from the middle of the bed. All right, and this is from behind the desk here. I wonder why they didn't take a picture of that. You got binoculars there. I don't know if he was into bird watching or, but he's got a pair of binoculars there. All right, here's that view from the door that leads into the hallway. All right, And I believe this is in the hallway. So this would be the room behind us. You've got looks like a dresser there with some shirts in it and another little sitting area over there. All right, here's a view of a door. Looks like, is this the main door? Because this is definitely the inside. We are 70% through today's episode. Okay, so this is the blue ceiling. So this is going to be that room that had all of those belongings that are similar to the belongings that Jeffrey Epstein would be using. The glasses, the paintings, they all have similarities to his style. So here is this door here with the flaps open, the barn doors. All right, and here's another look at that closet with the t-shirts in it, that bench. Moving right along. All right, so yeah, I would definitely say I'm like 99% sure this is Jeffrey's room. He's known for wearing these plain looking jeans there. I didn't know he was so into Crocs though. All right, you got some boots up here. Moving right along. All right, here's a side angle of that closet in the hallway there. All right, another view of that closet. All right, so this closet's got some interesting patterns on it. There's Jeffrey's t-shirts. That looks very similar to his wardrobe, but we're not going to say definitively that this is Jeffrey's room. But with all the spare glasses laying around and the jeans, those jeans he's known for wearing, I would say this is his room. There's another flashlight. All right, and we got an archway here leading back into the hallway. We are 80% through today's episode. All right, we got a mirror. We've got a mirror here. Those glasses, as usual. All right, another close-up view of this closet here. All right, so there's that little bed to sit on. This looks like it leads to. Is this a bed? All right, so you've got an open fire extinguisher case there. Little closet. I don't know what this is. All right, we've got an oxygen machine. I don't know who that would have been for, and a piece of equipment here that I don't readily identify. So if anybody knows what that piece of equipment is used for, let me know. It looks kind of like one of those dental lights that they would put in your face when they're cleaning your teeth, but I could be wrong. Or a sonogram machine, perhaps. I'm not sure. All right, we got some little briefcases there, towel warmer, and some drinks. All right, so we've got some more electrical equipment here and some totes, drinks. Moving right along. All right, so we've got a brush here, some dryers. What does this say down here? Microcrystal dermabrasion. So I don't know if that was for Epstein or if it was for the women on the property. Moving right along. All right, here's another look at that equipment there. And we are 90% through today's episode. All right, we got a closed door here. All right. So we've got a sink here, picture of a sunset right there. Nothing too crazy. All right, there's the mirror, those brushes. All right. We got a picture of a toilet with, of course, the directory phone. All right, another view of that hallway there. Lots of duplicates. All right, so we've got this chair that appears to be leaning on its front. You got a shower there, and you've got, let's see, I don't know what that is. Is this a person in the reflection in the background or in the front? I'm assuming this is a reflection. All right, here's another view of that chair. It looks like someone's leaning on the counter. Can kind of make out a COVID mask there and the hand. You would think in an investigation they would take clean pictures, but all right, so here's the side of that sink. There's that brush that we've seen in so many rooms of Epstein's house. Moving right along. Okay, so same picture, just different angle. What's that? 3 photos of the same thing, and the front, it's kind of the same angle. So you got this bench here, the chair over here. It looks like some sort of washing device, but there's a shower over here as well. And to finish today's episode with file 1800, let's see what we've got in file 1800. Okay, it's another look at this bathtub here with the chair next to it and these 2 stools. Nothing too crazy in today's episode, but like I said, for transparency, we have to mull through everything that we found in the files thus far that we found very intriguing, interesting, or damning was all by us just going in order, looking at every file, which we will continue to do. But I've held you guys for 27 minutes as it is, so I don't want to keep you guys much longer. Thanks for coming along the ride with me. As always, I appreciate everybody that's sharing the videos on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever your platform is, TikTok. We appreciate it by not letting this Epstein file and this Epstein case go under the rug. We're going to continue to press forward and demand answers when it comes to these actions and these allegations. Aside from that, like I said, if you watch regularly, please subscribe and hit the notification button because we're obviously going to be making thousands of episodes if we're going to go through 3 million files, and you don't want to miss any. You're going to want a notification because it's going to be very easy to get behind, in the files if you don't know when they're coming out, if you're just going to play it by ear. And like I said, we appreciate the engagement, the thousands, tens of thousands of views, and any concerns or anything you want added to the channel, be sure to put that in the comment section. Anything that you notice that I don't notice, put it in the comment section. Anything you want added to what we cover or taken out of what we cover, put that in the comment section as well. But that's enough of that. We're almost at 30 minutes, so I think I've held you guys long enough. I will see you guys in the next episode. And with that being said, you guys take care of each other, and I will see you guys soon.